And now, it's time for a Star Trek story. You know, Aaron, tell me if you've heard this one before. I've heard this, it's this kind of thing you hear at funerals or birthday cards, or not birthday cards, grievance cards, whatever you call them. Time heals all wounds. I've heard this bandied about throughout my life. And, that's actually got me to wondering, though, does time actually heal all wounds?
I've kind of found it to be true in my life. Time kind of smoothed things over. Things that you felt very strongly in the moment, a few years go by and it's like it barely exists, or it's not even a thing anymore. Or if it is there, it's a very dull, small remembrance of that feeling that you felt in the moment when it was so strong, right?
Yeah. Slow dissipation. Though I kind of wonder, though, is that more like healing or forgetting? And is forgetting healing?
And then, it can be. If you're letting it go. If you're forgetting it, but like part of you still holding on to it, that's not good. That'll bubble up and come back to bite you in the ass later.
Well, I'm sure Star Trek will have some thoughts and insights on this. Star Trek has thoughts and insights on many things. Because yes, we are watching Star Trek today on today's episode of Star Trek Stories. Yay! Yeah, I know. Fancy that. Yes, welcome to the show, everyone. I am your soothing co-host, Jaron Hatch, and I'm joined here by my cathartic co-host, Aaron Cole. Hello, Aaron.
I like the descriptors today. Hello, Jaron. How are you?
Good. Feeling very cathartic with you here with me.
I'm so soothed.
Yes, this is the beginning of a new batch of episodes for us. This is the beginning of our look at Deep Space Nine and the end of TNG. We finally made it to Deep Space Nine. Yay!
Oh my God. It doesn't feel real yet.
I know.
We need to watch an episode, I think.
Yeah, and then it'll feel real.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about it for so long. This is episode 49, Emissary. And to kick off this exciting premiere, we've got two guest hosts on with us today. Coming over subspace frequencies. First off, we have a returning guest on the show with us. Rejoining us, we have the very lovely Carlton Bluford back on the show. Yay!
No, thank you for having it. I'm really happy to be back. This is exciting.
Hell yeah. I'm so excited to have you back, Carlton. Yes, Carlton is one of our dearest and bestest friends. And for those who don't know, the three of us all used to live together in different iterations of the boys' house. Been friends for years and been on many an adventure. Yeah, Carlton, how are you today? How are things down in LA land?
Oh, it's great. It's a balmy 70-something degrees. We're trying not to be too hot. There's no snow.
Truly winter.
Yeah.
In LA winter.
It's pretty great. No, and we're doing well. We just had some breakfast. Our dog is chilling, and I'm excited because Deep Space Nine is my favorite of the Star Trek series. I've been waiting to hear / get to this version of your guys' podcast since the beginning, so I'm very excited.
Yes.
Hell yeah! It's like we definitely have to get. I knew when I put this all together for the first time, it's like it has to be Carlton for this first episode. Last time you were here, we watched Next Generation. We watched Skin of Evil. The episode where Tashiar gets yeeted across the set and
Oh my God.
and got kicked out of the show. So
She's
sad.
dead.
And I know you love TNG, and I know you love Star Trek in general. But I know, like you said, Deep Space Nine has a particular place in your heart. And I know and this is like a specifically a bonding thing for you and I. A lot of our friends watched it later, but you and I as kids watched it as it was coming on. And I didn't know a lot of people who were watching it at the time. So we have like formative childhood, adolescent memories with this show. I'm curious, like, what, from that perspective for you, what was it like for you growing up with this show, as opposed to the other Star Trek shows? Like, what about this one did you latch onto as a kid?
First and foremost, I latched onto the fact that Cisco is the captain. And having an African American captain was a huge thing for me. I was like, I already loved Star Trek and fell in love with Geordi LaForge and Worf, and was like, that's really cool. But when I saw Cisco, I was like, that guy's in charge. I could be in charge. Like, it was, the representation is so important. And not just that he was African American, his character and all of those characters, they're very different from TNG. It is the outpost Deep Space Nine that they're on is very different. And it's also different just because of the fact that they are in a station and not in an exploring ship. That changes the dynamic a lot. But I mean, I don't know. I guess those things and the way that Deep Space Nine is portrayed, the storyline, how it stands out. For some reason, it felt more. I think TNG is really idealistic, which I love, and then Deep Space Nine is just kind of real, and it's like it's not always going to be peaches and cream. Sometimes it will be, but sometimes it's like major decisions, costing thousands of lives, and there's no, the whole win-win scenario thing is prevalent in this series. So that's why I love it, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Cisco was also big for me. Carlton, you're an actor, and a writer, and we've talked over the years about shows that have inspired you to continue being an actor in your writing. Is this one of those shows for you? Did this have any impact on you, like wanting to really like keep, because you were doing acting when you were a kid. Was this something that was like, yeah, I want to do that? Or did this spur any writing desires for you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, even now, the Star Trek series that are going, I desperately would love to at least audition for. I mean, there's a lot of young talent out there being able to like continue these stories, and I'm like, man, that's like, I don't even know what I would do. I would disintegrate probably if I stepped on a set, but I would also like be so energized. And I mean, I've always wanted to be on Star Trek. So anybody out there listening to this, my email address. But also, writing wise, this and Firefly, and a combination of the two helped me write at least an outline for this TV series about two brothers who like go into space. That also like there's also a lot of Mass Effect in there too. But Star Trek is heavily is one of my biggest influences as far as that goes. Anytime I think of anything sci-fi, the first thing I think of or refer to is Star Trek, and then anything else follows that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to revisiting this very first episode with you and reflecting upon it now as adults.
Is that what we are?
Asterisks. Hell yeah. Well, in addition to Carlton, everyone, we have a brand new guest on the show with us. Also coming over subspace frequencies, we have the very lovely Sarah Walker on the show. Yay! How are you?
I'm good. Chilling on the couch.
Yeah, hell yeah, hell yeah. For those who don't know, Sarah is Carlton's lovely wife, and actually, for a brief time, one of the official members of the Boys House. Snuck in there right there at the end. Sarah, I know you also are an actor. And I know Carlton's history, but I don't know a lot about your history with like acting and performing arts. Where did your love of acting come from? How long have you been doing it? Like, what draws you to acting?
I came into like the theater world via dance. So I danced since I was 3. And I don't know, I just took all the little classes that, in my little pink outfit. And and so then I decided that I started taking voice lessons from someone in my town. And then I grew up in a really, really small town. So it was like someone from church. And then I auditioned for a play, Alice in Wonderland, and I got the role of Alice. I did little things like growing up just because our mom, so I say our mom, meaning my sister is 2.5 years older than me, and we like did everything together. So we did Annie at one point, and I wasn't one of the named orphans though. I had to make up my own name.
It's still mostly theater work for you. Do you also do the film TV editions as well?
No, I'm not really. I still take class. We have an amazing acting. It's called Studio, and we do a lot of script work and stuff like that. That's what I really love about acting, is like diving into text. I think is really interesting. And I love, I think if I were to jump in a place where I think I fit the best right now is like more from like a management side of of how things run. Like that's more interesting to me right now, but I love acting, and it's something that definitely heals me via class. I like things to be, I don't know, I guess once a camera's on, it's not my favorite anymore. So maybe I like stage acting better.
Two very different things.
Yeah. The pressure is different.
Yeah.
When you do script work, and I didn't know this about you, what is it specific you love about like script work? Is it like playing around with like how we could do this? Is it kind of like the analysis of the text itself? Like what is about it that like speaks to you?
Oh, I think it's more once I'm familiar with a script and with a character, like going into class and playing with, okay, what does this mean? And how does this come out once you're in a class or in a performance? And then supporting that with text is.
I love that. Switching gears a little, as far as I'm aware, you haven't really watched a lot of Star Trek, if any, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Star Trek noob?
Sure that is correct.
Not a one.
Not a one, I don't think.
Hell yeah, I always love bringing the noobs on. I'm like, you fool.
Okay, I did grow up like a family that really doesn't like this kind of stuff. Like, truthfully, it's no one in my family watches this. We didn't go see it in theaters, but we saw like every other movie. Like even Marvel stuff isn't a really, I don't know, like more of that sci-fi world where anything's like not a real person, they're like freaked out by. So I had to come into watching stuff that was different than like mainstream whatever. I mean, and maybe that was mainstream.
Star Trek
Yeah.
mainstream, but
But you know what I mean? So it was like something that like once I moved away and started seeing what other people liked. So it's still something that I'm like, all right, I'm coming into this. But I did tell Carlton he needs to curate an evening of me watching this. I'm not just going to watch it for fun. Like I got to focus and take in a lot of information. I need like food or like a drink.
Well, hell yeah. I'm going to be very curious as to what your kind of feelings are on this. And then before we get into it, I'm just going to open up the question we asked earlier to both of you guys. I want to get your thoughts. What do you guys think? Does time heal all wounds?
I was thinking about what I would say too. I don't know. I think it depends on how deep the wound is. But I do think time takes like pressure off of the situation. I don't know. My mom says that all of us in my family hold grudges. So like I don't know. I don't know. Depends on how deep you went.
Sure.
That's what she said.
Yeah. What do you think, Carlton? Does time heal all wounds?
I don't know. Over time, you have a perspective. We have a perspective that people 50 years, 100 years, 200 years ago didn't have. You know? And so I think that understanding maturity and the realization that you could die at any second and every day is a gift. I think time begins to become things that happen to you as you get older tend to become less important than the bigger picture, which is that we're all gonna end at some point, and you have to live life and take what's worth it. So I mean, yeah, I think eventually time does heal all wounds because there's nothing, once you're gonna die or about to die, there's nothing you can really do, and they say you can't take any of this with you. So I mean,
interesting. Well, I'm sure, Star Trek's going to give us some thoughts and feelings on if time heals all wounds. Yes, we are watching Emissary today. This premiered January 3rd, 1993. This is the feature-length series premiere of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And then just for a little context for everyone. So the chairman of Paramount at the time, Brandon Tartikoff, when he wanted to expand the brand and create a spinoff, he wanted a Star Trek show that was going to be in that same Western vein, but also be something very different and new compared to the OG show and Next Generation. And his idea was to do, instead of doing Wagon Train in space, he wanted to do The Rifleman in space. The Rifleman was also a popular Western from back in the day. And that show was about a single dad and his son coming to a frontier town in the 1880s, and basically just, rather than going places, they were just on this frontier, this town on the edge of the frontier, and it was just about that town they lived in, trying to like find justice and law and order in this town. And it was one of the first shows that actually focused on a single parent raising a kid. He's like, that's what I want the new Star Trek show to be, and just basically gave them like that edict. I want it to be that. And this is the result. They're like, okay, then that's what we'll do. So that's what we're going to be looking at today, how successful they are in realizing this kind of rifleman in space concept. All right, everyone at home who's listening, this is your invitation to watch along with us. Star Trek Deep Space Nine is streaming on Paramount Plus. You can find it by bringing up Season 1, Episode 1. And we will be back after we watch Emissary.
Commander, yes, please, come in. Welcome to Bajor.
It's been a long time, Captain.
We met before.
Yes, sir. We met in battle. I was on the Saratoga at Wolf 359.
I assume that you have been briefed on the events leading to the Cardassian withdrawal.
Yes, sir. I understand they spent the last half-century robbing the planet of every valuable resource before abandoning it.
They've left the Bajorans without a means of being self-sustaining. The relief efforts we've been coordinating are barely adequate. I've come to know the Bajorans. I'm a strong proponent for their entry into the Federation.
Is it going to happen?
Not easily. Ruling parties are at each other's throats. Factions that were united against the Cardassians have resumed old conflicts.
Sounds like they're not ready.
Your job is to do everything, short of violating the Prime Directive, to make sure that they are. I have been made aware by Starfleet of your objections to this assignment. I would have thought that after 3 years spent at the Utopia Planitia Yards that you would be ready for a change.
I have a son that I'm raising alone, Captain. This is not the ideal environment.
Unfortunately, as Starfleet officers, we do not always have the luxury to serve in an ideal environment.
I realize that, sir, and I'm investigating the possibility of returning to Earth for civilian service.
And perhaps Starfleet Command should be considering a replacement for you.
That's probably a good idea.
I'll look into it. In the meantime, however...
In the meantime, I will do the job I've been ordered to do to the best of my ability, sir.
Dismissed.
we just got done watching Emissary. For those at home who have not seen this before, who didn't watch along with us, I'm going to try to briefly recap this, but they throw off a lot at you in this episode. So in this episode, you basically get the planet Bajor, which is this peaceful, spiritual planet, and they have just undergone a decade-long occupation by the Cardassian government, this kind of fascist alien society that has conquered their planet and basically raped the planet for like 60 years. And then they peace out. And then the Federation comes in to help essentially them like rebuild after all this has happened. There's an old Cardassian space station in orbit of the planet that is now abandoned, that the Bajorans now control, and they ask the Federation and Starfleet to help them kind of run it and rebuild. And that brings in Commander Benjamin Sisko, who is ordered by Starfleet to take control and essentially restabilize the situation with the hope of one day of not only rebuilding their society, but hoping that they'll one day join the Federation. Sisko is a single dad. He's bringing his son Jake with him, and he reveals that he really doesn't want to be there. This whole episode started with a prologue where we saw him in a battle sequence where he lost his wife, and we're picking up 3 years later, and he is still grieving, and he is still essentially broken from this. But he is considering leaving Starfleet and just doing something different back on Earth. But in the meantime, I will do the job I've been ordered to do to the best of my ability, sir.
Dismissed.
And so he connects with his first officer, the Bajoran Major Kira, who doesn't want the Federation there. You realize she's basically been a freedom fighter her whole life, and she's like, I don't even know why you guys are here. Fuck you guys. Is very trustful of outsiders. But she does tell him, like, look, if you want to start to bring my people together, like, we're all connected through this religion, you need to get, like, our spiritual leader, Kyle Pak, on board. He visits her, and she gives him an orb.
An orb of
the prophets.
A seer orb.
Yeah, and he undergoes this whole, like, he flashes back to when he first met Jennifer, and she tells him, it's like, oh yeah, by the way, these orbs have been sent down to our planet for the last thousands of years, and they have shaped our whole religion. Before I, unite my planet, I need you to find the celestial temple and unite my people. And he's like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. But
any questions, right?
Any questions. I'm going to try my best. They do figure out that there appears to be some weird phenomenon in the star system, and they go investigate, and they find this wormhole. The only stable wormhole that's known to exist, and it sends you to this distant part of the galaxy, but inside the wormhole are these alien beings who basically capture Sisko, and they're like, who are you? And he's like, oh, I'm this and hello, and he has to make first contact with these aliens living in a wormhole, and then they reveal that they have no concept of linear time, so then he has to explain what linear time is. But through this process, they help him realize that he has been living in the past, and he's been essentially stuck in the moment where his wife died, and he has not moved on since then. And so he's able to communicate their good intentions and how they exist as a species and what it is to be human. And they help him reconcile with his trauma and help him realize he's living in the past. And then they move the whole station over to the wormhole to start protecting it. These aliens in the wormhole give safe passage through the wormhole, and it just kind of leaves you on this like, all right, this is what they're going to start doing now. It's a lot. And I don't know if I can sum it up more succinctly than that, which is insane because I feel like I just rambled for 40 minutes.
It's that Charlie Day meme of him looking at the storyboard like, no, it's this. And then it's over here.
We always start with first impressions. Sarah, you are not just a Deep Space Nine newbie, but a Star Trek newbie. What are your initial thoughts and first impressions coming on from Emissary?
I liked it. I was very engaged, and I wanted to know more about the past of everyone. So I was really interested to know more, which I feel like means it's good. And I think a lot of the themes are very universal and still really relevant now. And I didn't know that all these women were going to be in charge, which I love watching. I do think I was cracking up at like the sexual tension, like when he first shows up to the one woman. What is her name? Yeah. She has like red on. Yeah. And they're like, hello. And he like this voice. I was very, I even wrote down like a quote what was it? I wrote it down.
That's a good sign. They're writing it down.
I have a client that I'm working with on like pitching stuff. And anyway, I put look for solutions from within. That was the religious woman person, right?
Yeah, Kyle Paka.
Yeah, I really like that quote. So yeah, I really liked it. I enjoyed it.
Look for some solutions within. You first off mentioned you were interested to know more about some of the backstories of some of the characters. Was there a character in particular they're like, I want to know more about this one?
Well, I guess the Major Cisco.
Major Kira or Commander Cisco?
Commander Cisco.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was the person that was like, wait, well, like I figured out that they were together, and I figured it would explain some stuff, but do you know about him before?
Cisco is brand new. This is the episode they first introduced. All the characters are essentially new in this, except for like Patrick Stewart as Captain Picard. He's the series lead in Next Generation, and Chief O'Brien. He was
curly-haired Irish guy.
He was the Irish guy, the engineer, the mechanic who's there, the curly-haired guy. He's like a recurring character. He was a recurring character, like a secondary character on Next Generation, and they made him they're like, hey, let's make him a main character on this spinoff. Everyone else is brand new.
Is he the operations guy that they said? Is that who that is?
Yep. Yeah,
yeah, I was like, why, when he first walked in, I was like, why is he not doing his job? Like, he had so many. I guess it just got attacked, but that was what I was thinking.
Just standing there.
Very cool. And before I move on to everyone else's initial thoughts, I'm very curious. How did this play to you as like a newbie? I feel like this episode is throwing a lot at the audience. Was it easy to follow? Were you able to pick up things along the way? I'm just curious how this played to you.
I did ask Carlton one time during it, but I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, where are they now? But I can't remember when that was. But then he told me really quickly. So it must have not been that confusing. But also I like to talk while I watch things, so that's
of course. Don't we all?
Yeah, no, but it was easy. Like I understood who, like the ranks.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, no, I thought it was pretty clear.
It's always interesting as when you're a hardcore fan, it's like, how does some of these shows play for a newbie? But I know some people, Deep Space Nine was their very first show, and they also like, I loved it. So
yeah,
very cool. Carlton, you have definitely seen this before a few times. Initial thoughts coming back to Emissary.
Yeah, it's interesting because as soon as it started, I was telling Sarah like it kind of felt like I kind of got teared up a little bit just because it felt like
Dude, same.
I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen it, but I just remembered my like young self watching the same thing. It's just a very interesting thing to come back to, especially at this time. He's such a badass. He's just such a badass. Even when he doesn't want to be there, he's like, "I'm gonna do this, and I don't care what you think." And you're like, and everyone he meets, Kira is like instantly won over by him, even though she's got a hard edge. Odo is instantly won over by him, even though he's got a hard edge. Like he comes in and he's just a badass. And it was, and I remember specifically this moment because before this, and for a lot of people, Picard was their favorite captain. Picard was by far my favorite captain. I mean,
He's incredible. We joke how basically every episode when we're watching Next Generation, we're like, shout out to Patrick Stewart for being
hell of a performance.
Hell of a performance.
Really
Shakespearean trained, yeah.
Every time.
So, but then not only am I seeing this African American captain and them meet like for the first time. It was such a interesting meeting, and the whole showing the whole relationship with Picard and the Borg and how that happened like really shook me because I remember watching all of that and start in Next Generation, but to think that it would actually affect other people on the same side like that was a really huge like, oh man, like it was a huge deal, and Cisco and also Cisco's kind of I wasn't expecting him to be so short with authority, especially with Patrick Stewart, who was my hero. And especially as a kid, it kind of instantly made me like Cisco more. I was like, who the hell is this guy then? If he's like acting that way to Jean-Luc fucking Picard, And then it's just so funny because now having watched the entire series, looking back this moment, it's like, oh, you're about to see who the fuck this guy is. Excuse my language.
Yeah. And we say fuck all the time on the show.
And he is a big deal. So
in the meantime, when he stands up, oh my god,
he literally talks down to him.
Yeah. So it was then and this time the first this transition of like going from my favorite captain to my next favorite captain really seamlessly. So it was great watching it again.
Good times. That scene with if you're a longtime fan at this point and you watch that scene with him and Patrick Stewart, it's fairly shocking. No one has talked to him and dressed him down like that before, and you're just like, he was always giving these brilliant speeches about, let me tell you what it is to be human, and I'm going to lull you to sleep with a bedtime story of how beautiful it is to be human. And then Avery Brooks as Commander Sisko shows up just like, fuck you son of a bitch. And you're just like, oh my God. It was shocking to me as a kid when I first watched this. And I agree with you, Carlton. I was like, who the fuck is this guy? He was something very different that we had not seen before in Star Trek before. He leaves a huge impression. Aaron, initial thoughts rewatching Emissary. I know you've seen this a few times as well.
Yeah. Countless times now. I don't know. Who knows how many times I've seen this premiere. Mm-hmm. It's such a good, I was saying to Carlton off pod, it's such a good episode of Star Trek on top of being a good premiere of a show. Yeah, like so many shows take a second to get going. It takes 2 or 3 episodes. You're like, okay, these are the characters. This is where they're going. But like this, so right off the bat, you know exactly who these people are, their backstory, their expedition, maybe some of the grander Star Trek lore is a little, but like this story, you're like, okay, these people, I know who these people are. It's such a good episode of television. that whole episode, I like it. I was like recontextualizing like all kinds of stuff about the episode, like Cisco's trip with the prophets and his therapy session with them, and like, oh my god, it was wild. It's such a good episode of TV.
I mean, that episode, that word literally popped into my head a few times. We were watching Wild. I'm like, this is a wild fucking story. Like,
it starts off at a 6 and then like takes you to like a 16 to a 20. Like, like as soon as he gets like sucked into the wormhole, you're like, whoa,
what the fuck?
They went full Star Trek.
I mean, they are in one big fell swoop. It's like you're dealing with obvious PTSD and trauma, and then you're getting into like political humanitarian ideas of like occupiers and people who are being occupied. I'm like, and then people who are coming in to ask to intervene on. I'm like, especially now, I'm like, this is still extremely relevant stuff. And then you get this whole wild, he goes through this space and time wormhole and has to explain time to these aliens. And then
what is time?
And then through explaining time, it's like realizes like, oh, I've been living in the past. Shit.
Oh, damn.
They are throwing so much crazy fucking stuff at you so fast in this episode. But then they're also like, here's this character, and here's this character, and here's this character, and here's this character, and they're showing you all these different characters, and it's like,
at the same time making it an episode of TV that's like conceivably watchable and enjoyable. You're along for the ride the whole time. It's such a trip.
It feels like a little mini TV movie. You know, I don't know if you grew up, for those who grew up in the 90s and before, there was like the ABC TV movie of the week on Sunday, and it kind of has that kind of vibe. It feels like like this kind of TV movie, but then it's also trying to set up a TV series that's going to be happening, and it's wild stuff. I think for me, it's always crazy revisiting this one. I remember watching this when it came on, and it left a huge impression on me as a kid. I was like, what? Like, Star Trek is in my DNA, so I was watching the reruns of the 60s show. I was watching Next Generation with Patrick Stewart when it was coming on, and I loved both of them. And they were like, there's going to be this new one coming on. And I watched it. I remember watching it and just being like, it was so shocking to me, this whole show. The other two shows are much more hunky-dory by nature.
Yeah, not to mention like the thought that like Star Trek has never really done anything like this before. They've done spacey timey aliens, they've done like political strife, but never like this. The tone they set and like the stakes they set right off the bat, like it's something else. Mm-hmm. It's its own thing, and it does it. You said shocking several times. It does shock you as a Star Trek fan, like, oh
my god, this
is something new.
Well, even now, because you and I have been covering a lot of Star Trek: The Next Generation on the podcast recently, like the last 35 episodes that we have covered have been Star Trek: The Next Generation. And then when you watch this, it's even just in comparison to what we just recently watched, it's fairly shocking. It just has a whole different vibe compared to what we just watched on Next Gen. And this show for me was the show that basically took me from childhood to through adolescence. And the original shows were much more these kind of, we've talked about it before on the show. They feel like secular Bible stories, what it means to be human. And you get a lot of this kind of good and what's evil philosophical storytelling as the Enterprise is meeting different species, and what's the lesson to learn for this week. And then they warp off to a new planet. This show, suddenly I'm like, well, they're not going anywhere. They have to keep dealing with this situation for week after week, and things aren't so hunky-dory and things aren't so black and white. And it just introduced me to a lot of just complexities that I hadn't thought about as a kid, about how the world actually is. I think for me, that was hugely impactful. I still remember when the wormhole opened up and they flew into it, and then Cisco falls into it. That to me as a kid, I'm like, what the fuck is this? I think that'll be a good place to start. There's a lot to talk about with this one. I think probably the biggest is Commander Cisco, played by Avery Brooks, our new series lead. This episode sets up a very complicated series, but it's very much a Cisco-centered episode. It's very much a character exploration episode for him. How do we feel about Cisco in this? How this episode sets him up? How does he come across in this episode?
I feel differently watching it now than I did when I was a kid. When I was a kid and I watched it, I felt like he was so strange. I felt like he was kooky, and part of this is that two things. One, I honestly wasn't used to seeing an African Americans in a lead role like that on a TV series like that for that extended period of time. I mean, just watching him throughout the entire episode, I was like, oh, okay. So that was new to me, but also like he always has this kind of sing-songy quality to his voice, and it's just so. When I first watched it, I remember being like, what is he? Is he like what is happening? Like, he speaks so jazz-like.
He's got a cadence for sure.
Yeah. Which I thought was cool. And now I still think it's cool, but now watching it this time, I was like, oh, like that's just him. It's just not Picard. It's just like the furthest away from a white English person you can get. Yeah. So it is shocking in that way too. And all of the characters, I know we're talking about Cisco, but as you follow him and you see all of the other characters be introduced to him, it's like how they react to him. Yeah. That's what I have to say.
Do you know how he got the role? Like, if there was a reason they picked him?
There's a few things that come into it with the casting of Avery Brooks. He was actually cast very late. He was one of the last ones cast. He actually had a few days to prepare for this role. On one level, just because the 60 show and Next Generation, they're like, okay, we've had two white guys. The feeling was behind the scenes, like, we can't do that again. And they initially they're like, we would like to cast this to an African American man, but they did cast a bunch of different people just to they're like, in case they find someone, but like that was in the back of their head. At the time, Avery Brooks had made an impression on TV audiences. There was a show called Spencer for Hire. He played this character named Hawk, this very kind of streetwise, very intimidating, very cool kind of character, and he left huge impressions on TV audiences at the time. And so they were looking at him in that, like, what if we did something like this? And he had done some other stuff. He's also famous for from his theater work. He is also a Shakespearean trained actor. At the time, he was famous for playing a stage version of Paul Robeson. And he is a huge presence, Paul Robeson, and Avery Brooks kind of played Paul Robeson and put his own huge presence into it. And so those are two of the things that were going through their mind. It's like they saw him as Paul Robeson on, I think it was Broadway, I could be wrong. And then they saw him as Hawk in the show. They're like, this would be such an awesome, if we could get Avery Brooks to play this part. And they sent him the script while he was on vacation in the Caribbean. And it was kind of like this, like, crossing the fingers kind of a thing. But he read it and he was like, he loved it. Sci-fi was not really his thing, but he saw this story about this man who had to essentially defend humans to this other race, and he felt personally connected. He was like, but it's a person of color having to defend humanity to this huge intelligence. Seemed like, that's huge. And the other big thing with him was actually his relationship with his son Jake. He was like, I have to play this. There are basically no roles on television that are showing a positive a positive take on a black man as a single father raising his son. You know, he's like, a lot of this stuff is just showing how broken these families are, you know, and he's like, and, you know, while some of that stuff is real, it's like, that is not all of it. And there are incredible single parents and single black parents raising their kids, and we need to show this on TV. And that was also a huge part of him taking the role. It's like, I want to do that. I think to this day, he still has basically a father-son like relationship with Sirach Lofton, the actor who plays Jake. They're still very close.
Yeah, I can see all of that in his performance. That's why I asked. Like, it feels like there was a lot that went into who they picked for that role for me. And he's so layered, and also the writing is so layered. So it's really interesting to watch him.
I agree. What do you guys think? Does this episode spend too much time on him when they should be setting stuff up, or do you think they find a good balance between like doing a really character-centric episode with him and setting up the show?
There was a moment where I was like, this is one too many exclamation moments of time and humanity with the prophets laid on. But that was it. That was literally, I was like, maybe we didn't need this, because we already understand like the idea of what Cisco and them are talking about, what they're going through. But other than that, I feel like, you know, it was great.
Oh yeah. No, I think that they did. I feel like they did. I mean, I forgot this, but even like the situation, how he gets Quark to stay on board, you know,
Is that the little guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I no other captain would do that, first of all, but you know, I guess, and he got more screen time than others. I don't know, but they introduced all of our favorite characters in a relatively short time in a very succinct and powerful way. You got to know exactly who they were, what was going on. I had to explain a little bit of the Jadzia Dax situation with the Trill.
Oh yeah,
and
that was the part that I asked about.
And we still probably have to explain that a little bit, because that is a new species and a new thing that happens that we are not, you know, that might have been in, I can't remember if it's in any of the episodes.
It is in an episode of Next Generation, and they specifically like, oh, this would be cool if we brought them onto the show. But every time I watch, I'm like, do they explain this adequately? They throw it at you real quick.
Yeah. And there's like a little flashback when it's like, oh, okay, so what does that mean? But yeah, but other than that, like, yeah, I mean, and not only do you get introduced to the characters pretty quick, but really well. But you are, for me, I was like, ooh, what's the Ferengi? Why is Quark that way? What's going on with Jadzia? What's their history? You know, this Bajoran Major, like, she's this freedom fighter who's like outspoken woman. Like, let's see what's going on with her. Like, I'm looking forward to the next episodes coming up, because I know I'm like, okay, they're gonna talk about some of this, you know. And I forgot how Julian Fisher starts out too. That was really fun. The doctor, who's like the hero. He wants to be like, I'm on the frontier. I'm on the frontier.
Out here in the wilderness.
This is so horny.
Is my home.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yes, I'm supposed to tend to the wounded. I have a job.
So yeah, I think they did it. I think they did it well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm most interested in the woman in red,
Major Kira,
and the Irish guy.
Chief O'Brien, yeah.
I can't remember all their names.
No, they throw so much.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think if I'm like interested in anyone else's story. Really, not really.
Mm.
So those are the people that I would stick around for at this moment.
Mm.
And if they wrote them out or something, I might be a little irritated, because those are the ones I initially liked.
They don't. So
Rest
assured.
We're going to write out Major Kira. Oh, no.
No. And in fact, she gets a lot of the best stuff in the show as Major Kira.
Yeah.
Cisco and Kira.
What are their things like? What's on them? Is that like their or not or whatever?
On their nose. That's just their skeletal structure. That's just like, so they're aliens, but they mostly look like Star Trek is famous for. There's lots of like aliens that look pretty close to humans. They'll just have one little thing about them. Part of the whole concept for Gene Roddenberry, he was like, let's just assume that like if life evolved on this planet, and if we were to find other planets that also evolved life, that it would just be similar. Which makes it really easy for a TV show. It's like, yeah, there's just like other human-like beings on planets. And then there's some that look more alien, of course.
I did ask Carlton if Patrick Stewart's head really looked like that.
That's him.
Yes. In real life.
He looks
no prosthetics.
Yeah.
It's just the shiniest, baldest, perfect little head you could imagine. I'm curious, Carlton, was there any characters in this, aside from Cisco? We'll definitely come back to Cisco. Was there anyone that kind of stuck out to you? I mean, now, I know you've seen the show many times. Was there anyone that kind of jumped out at you in this episode other than Cisco?
I mean, Kira is so strong. Odo is so strong. Whenever they came in, I remember seeing him shapeshift for the first time. I was like, "Ooh, that's cool. Lots you can do there." Fucking Gul Dukat.
Yes, our Cardassian fascist.
I mean, he
next door neighbor.
Goddamn smooth, And you get it from the very beginning. You can see like this is how this relationship with him and Cisco is going to go. And they're both it's lovely to see them dance around each other in that first scene. It's like, ooh, and especially knowing what's to come. It makes me want to watch it all again. It's so good. Oh, those two specifically, those three, him, Kira, and Dukat. I mean, very is a lot of the heart of Deep Space Nine.
It is interesting. One thing that I was thinking about real quick with Gul Dukat is the Cardassians are essentially space fascists. Gul Dukat is a space fascist. And we've talked about it. We've had the Cardassians come up a little bit on the show. This is when they really step into the limelight. But one of the things we've talked about is that they're so polite. And I find this such an interesting characterization. Especially nowadays, I'm like, why can't we live in a polite society? As if this politeness is some, I know there's hunger and I know there's homelessness and, I know there's this, but can't we just at least be polite when talking about these issues? I'm like, and then I see Gul Dukat and the Cardassians, and they're just playing this polite Commander, Major, when they're just clearly these evil motherfuckers. I'm like, how often is, this idea of polite society, how many times have like fucking fascists or just fucking people who don't want anything to change hide behind this veneer of polite society? But can't we just talk about these issues? It's like, you genocidal maniac, fuck you, what do you mean talk about these issues? Very interesting characterization.
They're the ultimate internet trolls. They're like, everything's a game to the Cardassians. That's what I love and hate about them.
Yeah.
Like they're behind so many layers of gamesmanship and trying to win and like always trying to have the upper hand. Like you can't possibly have a genuine conversation with Gul Dukat. Even when we strips down some layers, there's 20 more that you'd have to get through.
It's an interesting idea, like genuine, meaningful conversation getting lost under politeness. Aaron, aside from Cisco, who kind of stands out as in terms of the characters?
Quark, right off the bat when he laughs right in Cisco's face.
Community leader.
I love the Ferengis on this show. They're my favorite part of Deep Space Nine. It's taken me a couple watch throughs to get through, but I think They're like the comic relief. They're in a lot of ways like the heart of the show, which is weird because they're so selfish and so greedy on the surface. But whenever the show gets too dark or too moody, it always goes back to the Ferengis and they bring it back.
Yeah.
Oh, I love them so much. Quark really, Armin Shimmerman. Shout out to Armin Shimmerman. I think I'm going to say that a lot. Armin Sherman. Armin Sherman. Armin Sherman.
Never trust ale from a spiritual people or from a Starfleet commander that has one of your relatives locked up in jail.
That's the look he gives him.
Yeah, I do think Quark is a standout. I think for me also, Sarah and Carlton, you both mentioned her, is also Major Kira for me is also the big standout from this. She made a huge impression on me as a kid. I was like, who is... They've had some good women on Star Trek before, but it's kind of been this, like, there's sometimes either still too much in the back. Like Uhura, as awesome and as amazing as she is, she's still kind of the phone operator of the original ship. And then in Next Generation, the two women they had, Troy and Crusher, again, great characters, but they were also like the caretaker. One was the therapist and one was the doctor. So they all kind of had these kind of still stereotypical women's roles and female roles. But Major Kira coming in as like this ex-freedom fighter, ex-terrorist who is now like the first officer of this ship. This from these people who've been oppressed. You're just like, well, wow, like this is very different. And she talks about when she got the script, she loved it. She was like, and I think she's talked about it. She was like, so many roles I was reading at the time, it was housewives and sitcoms. She comes from a dancing background too, so she did also take some of these physical theater Broadway roles. But she was like, when I got this, I had never read, and there was nothing out there like this for if you were a woman trying to act at the time. They're like, she wasn't really written like a woman, and like she is a woman, but like no one was doing this at the time. I was like, how could I turn down this role? This is incredible. And even now in the 2020s, I sometimes still like, we don't see as many characters as like Major Kira as we should. She's so good.
Yeah.
She left a huge impression on me as a kid. Both her and Cisco, I think, were the big ones for me. We'll talk real quick about Kira, and then we'll come back to Cisco. She's the Bajoran, and her whole species. So she's kind of the POV character for this kind of indigenous group that is in this scenario. And there are these big powers coming in trying to help them out. How do we, what are our feelings on her, but also more generally, the whole idea of like so much of the show is about just over the next 7 years, they're trying to help the Bajorans rebuild. That's just a lot of what the show is trying to help the Bajorans rebuild. What are our feelings on that as like a premise for like a TV show? Are the Bajorans interesting? Is this a compelling idea for a TV series?
Well, I think it can be, but I also think when you couple it with, in the very first episode, with the fact that there's a wormhole that goes to another place that can be explored / is now becomes one of the most important outposts, period, and as far as the Federation is concerned, I mean, then adding in the history that you learn very, very quickly of Bajor and the Cardassians and the whole occupation, it makes a stew of intrigue for sure. What's going to happen next? Clearly, the Bajorans aren't going to just step away and let whatever happen. There's already the promise of conflict on the horizon. So I think without the wormhole and that kind of conflict, I don't know how. I mean, rebuilding a town on the fringes of the space is kind of interesting. It just depends on where you go with it, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess. I don't even know clearly who everyone is.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, because there aren't indicators that are super clear to me besides, I mean, I guess some of them are, but because some of the people look so close to human, I'm like, wait, is that are they? I don't know. So, yeah, I mean, I thought it was interesting, but I guess it's not necessarily based on your question of like, is this premise interesting if I read it on a piece of paper? Yeah, no, I think the episode was interesting, but I would explore different things besides the rebuilding of those people.
I'm curious, like, from you coming at this, like, what was the thing you latched onto, and what were you, in terms of what you want to see going forward, if you were to watch this going forward, what would be like the thing you want them to kind of really flesh out and explore?
I guess like the government being not super corrupt and being like actually caring about people, which they talked about. There was,
You mean the Federation?
well, yeah. So I'm probably using the wrong words. I don't know. The thing, yeah, like the people in charge of wherever of whatever they continue with, just that they care about people. And they talked about this. They said there was like a thing that I remember that they said something about proving that they care about people more than something else.
Yeah, the Federation, yeah.
So I guess just not fully understanding everything, just that they would be, the people in power would be less corrupt and that they don't have to play as many games with each other.
Sure.
Well, strap in.
Oh God. So yeah. So they're gonna play with each other a little bit more then, I guess. I mean, that's what makes it interesting is the conflict, I guess. But maybe the resolution not being. It would be nice to see something because it was just interesting too with the time talk. What is the past? I was kind of laughing at those questions, but I mean, yeah, I guess it's interesting to. I would explore that more too. Just like which one is in my mind, I guess I just immediately jumped to like which one is better and not necessarily what I need to jump to, but I was thinking a lot about that, like who experiences more joy because of the way that they think of time and I guess time in general.
It's some interesting stuff. And I mean, coming to our question from earlier, I mean, I asked the question, does time heal all wounds? And because we see this whole storyline of, in the end, it's about Cisco being trapped in his past. And the episode kind of explores some really interesting ideas about like time and trauma, but then also like who we are and this idea that like maybe we aren't as like linear as we think we are, because they're like, you exist here, you live in the past, but then you can also imagine some people being so preoccupied with the future that that's where they live. Yeah, so kind of coming back to our question from earlier, like what do you guys think now that we've watched this, like this idea of like time healing all wounds, and also just how some of these time and trauma ideas kind of flesh out this premiere episode?
Well, one of the things I can think of is I mean, is man's perception of time, is that what makes man human? Man human? Is that the human, the perception of time and how you experience it? Whether in conflict, witnessing, people you care about be hurt, or witnessing other people be hurt. I think about this actually pretty often, because I've been thinking about dissociating,
Yeah.
and how often people want to escape from pain or be in a place that's better, in whatever they're imagining or whatever their mind is. I mean, people choose to live in various different places in time, all the time. And so and so as a first episode with this huge swing, jumping into a new series to talk about that here, and then to think about where they're going to go. I mean, it's interesting having all the we have all of the episodes of D-Space 9 now, you know. So like, instead of sitting as a kid and waiting for the next episode to come and be like, oh my god, what's going to happen? You know, I've gone through that experience, and now I go through the experience of where I can go see what happens right now, or I can remember what happens. You know, it's all a part of and in this first episode. So I don't know. I think, does that answer the question at all? I mean, it's so the Star Trek.
It's a lot. Like I said, it's a big idea they're throwing at you.
Yes, because time is space at the same time, right? And so the space that he was existing in at that moment allowed him to look back at the past and see that he was stuck, right?
He just moved forward to a place where then he realized it's like, I'm physically here, but I'm mentally here.
Yeah, there's a thing about, like, you could shout from the rooftops to somebody for days this thing that they're going through, this perspective that they're in, but when they're stuck or whatever. But it takes like an actual moment within a person to see that, for them to make the choice to move forward, right? In the space that they're in the time that they're existing in that moment.
Yeah, maybe time not meaning, time taking on multiple meanings. Off what you were saying, just about some of that time is spent in the past, evaluating how you felt about something or how you feel about it now. But I don't know. I still go with my, like, it depends on how deep the wound is, because I don't know. Maybe I've never seen the episodes following this, but I mean, is the wife still a part of the story, like moving forward? Is she still thought of, or does he just move on and then?
Yes and no.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I think certain things hit us differently, and but yeah, I mean, I guess time. I think it's a factor. Maybe the phrase needs to be a little longer, but it can't go back.
I mean, right. You got to be able to slap it on a Hallmark card. So
time heals all wounds, provided. It's just like,
read the fine print. Warning: however, time does not heal all wounds. Time may cause abdominal distension. Please consult your doctor to see if time work is the correct choice for you. I'm thinking about kind of somewhat in the first part before we started watching Carlton. I was thinking about a little bit what you said about perspective, and I was thinking about that when we were watching this idea. Maybe it's not necessarily like time just heals all wounds, but it's like a perspective thing, because it's like this episode plays with like this idea that it's not that time heals his wound. Time was kind of causing his wound to fester because he was stuck in the past. You know, so time wasn't healing his wound in this case. Like, time was keeping him stuck and keeping that wound open. And it took, you know, I mean, you could argue divine intervention. Are they gods? Are they aliens? Who knows? But they kind of help him see. It's like, cool, bro. Thanks for explaining time. Then why are you still here? And he realizes, like, yeah, well, you're right. Like, I'm not living in the present, and that's where I need to be. And it's kind of being in the present that lets you heal. But that's just not where, for the last 3 years, he was not living in the present. He was living in the past. So it's like,
and that's so implied too. He doesn't really have the words to explain that to them.
No.
In the moment.
No.
Like, oh shit, I have to process that in the moment, in time.
But he gets it when they tell him, like, you exist here, and he just has that breakdown. You're like, and he just repeats, I exist here. And I have never figured out how to move on, like, live without her. To the point where he's literally still, like, in that moment, and he can't get past it. But it's like realizing, like, he has to in order to start healing. So it's almost like, maybe it's not like time heals all wounds. Maybe it's like the present heals all wounds. But like, you got to be careful, because if you're too stuck in the past or the future, worrying about the future, it's like you're never going to heal. Like, you got to be here and now if you're going to heal.
This is at least like 5 Hallmark cards.
There's a series of Hallmark cards coming that will explain. They're linear cards. The past leads to the present, leads to the future.
It's complicated.
Oh man. Is there anything? So we've been fairly. I love this episode. I love Deep Space Nine. I know you're in the same boat, Aaron. I know you're in the same boat, Carlton. And Sarah, you're new coming to this, but I'm curious, is there something we would have liked them to have done differently, or is there something they could have done better in this episode?
I felt like, I mean, this is not really story related, but like some of the people's voices, I felt like didn't match them, but Carlton said they settle in.
That's true.
So, but yeah, no, I don't really wish anything different. I don't know.
I wish that, and you get all of this history and rich, life as you continue to watch the show, but the whole occupation between Bajor and Cardassia and the feelings thereof between Cardassians and Bajorans, I would have liked to see more of, or have more explained. It's such a long episode already, and I understand, and I loved everything that I saw, so I don't know what else you would take out in order to like explain more of this. So I don't know if that's even practical. And you do get more of this history as you keep watching. So hopefully you watch that first episode and go, I want to keep watching. It was like, even watching it this time, I was like, oh, right, this is the thing. This happened, right? And now what's happening? And they're leaving, or they're just leaving, or what? Yeah.
They definitely just jump into it. And I think I was thinking something similar. Like, Kira's doing a lot of the heavy lifting, trying to explain like the trauma and what this was, but there is a lot of her explaining how horrible this was, rather than you're kind of seeing the aftermath, like the station's in wreck, but like she's telling you all of it rather than you kind of seeing it in real time. And you are right, they do kind of show you more, like as the show goes on, just how horrible this whole thing was on the Bajoran people. What about you, Aaron? Anything you think they could have done differently or would like to have seen more fleshed out?
Oh my. God bless her. Jennifer's acting has always bugged me.
Jennifer, yes.
She literally had community theater arms walking on the beach. I gotta roast you. It was so bad. It's always been so bad. It takes me completely out of the episode. And yeah, that thing, they could have cast a little better. Her part. But that's my only criticism about the episode, really, is her performance. It's rough.
It almost feels like they were going, it's like, she's very pretty. She's a very striking woman.
Nice body.
That space bikini she's wearing is fantastic. It seems like they were trying to go for like an image, rather they cast for that more than they did for the actor behind it. I agree. I'm not crazy about her performance either. I feel like in some of their scenes, Avery Brooks is doing a lot of the heavy lifting in those scenes.
He's deadlifting 500 pounds on the beach. Smelling salts were involved.
Yeah, I agree. I think I would maybe like to. I wish we could have seen a little more fleshing out of the Doctor Bashir. I know you said, Sarah, like, I forgot about him. Like, yeah, he doesn't have a huge part to play in this. And maybe a little more with Odo. They kind of set up a really interesting idea of like this. He's this goo guy that doesn't know where he's from.
That adds to the mystery as like a first time viewer, right? When episodes were week to week.
Yeah, it sets up a fun, interesting mystery with him, but I'm like, I just don't feel like it does a whole lot more than that with him. But I get there's only so much time. For me, it's definitely a Cisco Kira episode. Those two definitely like they're front and center. This is going to be a little more for Carlton and you, Aaron, because you guys are kind of longtime fans, and now that you're kind of revisiting this, we've been covering a lot of the original show, and we've been covering a lot of the Next Generation. How does this play against those two shows?
It's the counterculture. It's
the
like
counterculture of the counterculture.
yeah, like in the nerddom. Like it was a little too pristine, a little too like, this is our perfect Star Trek menagerie, right? And you needed something to disrupt the market and to provide a fresh take. And that's what Deep Space Nine is.
It succeeds in doing exactly what Star Trek does. You know, the 60s and embodied the ideals and the feel of the 60s show. Next Gen did the exact same thing. You know, 80s, you know, 90s was that. I mean, it looks and feels like that, and it embodies the people of that time. And I think Deep Space Nine came in like, especially at our times growing up. You know, it's this. It introduces the odd group of people, you know, who don't,
outsiders,
you know, who don't necessarily like each other at first, but like, you know, get to like, you know, learn how to actually be a team and work together.
90s angst.
Yes. it's like the rock and roll versus the, you know,
classical music. Yeah.
And it was hot and visually stunning and full of even more possibility. I mean, it changes the game in so many ways. It was engaging. And at this point in time, I was older when I was watching it, so I didn't have necessarily the curfew that I had when I was watching Next Generation. And I would just, this is what I would be like, I'm finishing my homework so I can watch this freaking show. That was like my thing, and I think they did a really good job of capturing our age range with the show. You know?
Yeah, I think for me, and kind of going on that, in more recent years, as I've reflected on it, the character of Jake Sisko has really come to hit me, and I didn't realize how much I appreciated Jake as a kid. And Carlton, you and I are, you know, around the same age. Jake was a little older than us at the time. He was like he was always a few years older than us.
That's perfect. I feel like in TV world, that's where you want it. That's the sweet spot.
I feel like I was at the perfect age for it, because so much of the show, of the heart of the show, is this relationship between Sisko and his son Jake. And there's so many scenes of like this father and son dynamic. There's all these big political crazy things going on around Deep Space Nine all the time. And then so much of the heart of the show is just like them coming together at breakfast. It's just father and son and just kind of having heart to hearts. I remember that like the 90s being such a like you know, there's some interesting stuff with the 90s. We were living in this, like the Soviet Union had fallen, you know, and some historians were calling it the end of history. And we're now in this just awesome time. And Next Generation had some of that kind of energy. But then Deep Space Nine was kind of, as I was getting older and going into adolescence, there was this kind of like, yeah, but shit's real out there, and it still is real. And like, don't forget it. Like, shit's real out there. And it gave me a lot to think about in a way that the other shows had never given me to think about. And I think Jake's, and like, I didn't appreciate it as a kid, but now looking back, I'm like, I didn't realize how much I actually latched on to Jake. And it felt like Sisko was my dad, kind of holding my hand and telling me, like, even though he was such a hard ass and badass with everyone else, he just,
Sisko was everybody's Star Trek daddy.
Right. Like, that meant the world, they had never done that before. Like, Picard had never had a son, or Kirk never had a son like that. Like, he just had these little father-son heart-to-hearts. And I think for me, that whole dynamic more and more is what kind of means the most to me.
You know what's interesting about that, Jaron? I literally not hated, but I did not like I didn't like what they did with Jake, and I remember being so adamantly like, Cisco's so badass, like step up to the plate and be like your dad, like instead you're gonna be a writer. It's exactly what I'm doing now. And what the funny thing about it though too is that the relationship that I did connect with in that father-son relationship is Cisco being so big, and the and Jake's inability to step out of his dad's shadow. He would not be able to be Cisco, but he was very successful in being himself and doing the thing that he liked to do, and doing his thing. Which is something that I did like latch onto, because my dad was always like, everyone loves my dad, and it was a wild time creating my own road and stepping out of that shadow. So I did relate. I did relate to that as
well. Any final thoughts, Sarah? Any final thoughts on Emissary?
Final thoughts, thank you.
No, I plead the fifth. Carlton, any final thoughts on Emissary?
Yeah, I'm glad Sarah liked it, and this is one of the reasons why we love Star Trek, is because it's filled with these. You get to talk and think about them afterwards. Not every episode is so huge, but actually in Deep Space Nine, most of them are pretty
eventful.
Yeah. And memorable. I think in closing for me, Deep Space Nine really changes the game. There isn't another series that is in the Star Trek world that's like it, right? There is no one other
still
one.
No.
So yeah, it's just for any of those people who are out there like listening to this too. I'm really excited for you, because the journey, once you start the Deep Space Nine journey, it is all the way until completion. It's intense, and all the best ways.
Yeah, I kind of explain it to people like it's a slow burn, but there's this snowball rolling down a hill feeling to it, and eventually you just realize like so much is going on now, and the stakes are so incredibly high, and it just feels like episode after episode you're like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
To the point where you almost appreciate the odd filler episode where they don't focus on plot so much and they just go off on a crazy adventure like Star Trek does. You're like, oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, just some weird week. It's like, oh, by the way, some random weird thing happened. You're like, oh, thank God. Little tension reliever. Aaron, final thoughts on Emissary?
Emissary. I'm so glad to be back in the Deep Space Nine. I get something new every time I watch this show. I got crazy amounts of new input every time, like this time watching the premiere. And I'm excited to watch it again. I think that's the mark of a good show, is like it gives you it provides you with something more every time you watch it.
I agree. I always get something when I come revisit all these shows, but I always get something. There's so much detail in Deep Space Nine. By the end of the show, the cast expands to like an exponential level. There are so many characters, there are so many factions, there are so many things going on. It's hard to really appreciate all of it on just one watch through. So each time I go back, I'm like, wow, I never thought about like this character and what they're going through right now. And they just do so much with all the and the characters grow. Where the characters start in this episode and where they end up at the end of the 7 seasons, like all of them have undergone so much that they are almost different people, like on some level. It's wild.
That's the
arcs they go on.
Time capsule that Carlton was talking about. Being able to see it from all sides now.
Thanks for being our past and present and future show, Deep Space Nine. We appreciate you. I love this show. I've said it before on the show. This is secretly my favorite Star Trek show, and I keep telling people like if I had to say which one was the best, it's secretly this one. if I were to tell people, like, if you only were to watch one Star Trek show, I would still say then watch Star Trek Next Generation. It's more stereotypical Star Trek, and it's really good. But I'm like, but in terms of what was secretly the best, it was this one.
But this one still needs the thing that makes it maybe not the best, though secretly it is that it needs everything that came before to kind of establish that universe, to set them out on that frontier. You kind of need Kirk and Spock adventures. You need Picard adventures with Riker.
There's a little context, but I have met people who said this was my first Star Trek show and I loved it. I got it. Like, I had a few things filled in for me, but I'm like, and then it made them want to go explore the other shows. So I'm like, oh, maybe. Yeah, I love the show. I'm super excited to continue exploring more. Well, all right, everyone. Thank you for listening to our coverage of Emissary. We hope you enjoyed our coverage, if not the episode. Looking forward to, for those of you, like I said, this show is built for both hardcore fans and newbies. So if you're new to all this and you're kind of going on this journey with us, like, buckle up. There's some fun Deep Space Nine stuff coming down the pike. Awesome. Thank you, both of you, for coming on the show with us today. It was so fun to have you both on.
Thank you, though.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for not shooting our children.
What?
What? You have children?
Awesome. So we can do the show.
What?
Oh, yeah, we can give those back now.
Oh yeah.
I forgot about the children.
I will untie them and I'll FedEx them back.
Hopefully it's FedEx ground. Yeah, thank you both. It was super fun.
It was really fun.
You guys are always fun. Thanks for having me.
Yay.
Very entertaining.
Fun was had.
Fun was had.
Well, and as always, thank you, Aaron.
Thank you, Jaron. You've been very soothing.
You've been very cathartic.
Thank you.
I'm super excited to be here. We've been watching so much Next Generation, and spoiler, we will still be watching Next Generation during this chunk of episodes. We're going to be going back and forth between these two shows, and that's going to be fun. We're going to be doing some compare and contrast between Next Gen and Deep Space Nine, because this was the first time they had two shows on at the same time, and they're very different in their approaches. So it'd be fun to kind of jump back and forth between these two series and see how they explore things.
Yeah, that was just not a thing on TV really in general at the time. Like having two shows in the same universe on at the same time.
It's kind of ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Now you kind of see that shit everywhere, but
How many
it was
Star Trek
almost
shows do we have
unprecedented.
right now?
There's like 5. The fact that there were two shows on at the same time was mind-boggling. As a kid, I'm like, I have 2 Star Trek shows to watch now? That's amazing. Yeah, really looking forward to watching this whole big chunk. All right, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Next week, we are going to be continuing our Deep Space Nine adventure with A Man Alone. A Man Alone. This was the second episode produced for the series, and we'll see how this episode kind of just sets up the kind of expectations for like the week. We've had the big epic premiere, and this is kind of the one that now kind of like, but here's kind of how the show is going to look from week to week. And that's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to also be having a special guest on to talk about that one with us. So you definitely don't want to miss that one. I think it's going to be really fun.
Definitely don't want to miss it. Definitely.
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening. Carlton and Sarah, thank you so much.
Thank you both.
Peace. Aaron, thank you.
Thanks, Jaron. Love you, man.
I love you too. I love you guys all so much. And we will see you all next time, hopefully not recovering from a 60-year-long occupation of your planet.
Okay, bye.
Just keep your fingers crossed, everyone. Thank you. Goodbye. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to share us your own Star Trek story, you can email us at storiedstartrek@gmail.com, or you can visit our Discord server. You can find us by clicking on the link in the show description.